Starting off, we're hearing from the World Bank that, of course, Sri Lanka's economy is rising, developing, and things are getting better, but that 1/3 of our population is still under the poverty line or at the risk of falling back into poverty. I'd like to start off with asking you to give us an assessment of the situation.
Sri Lanka today is like a household that has just gone through a storm. The roof has been repaired, the lights are there, electricity is back, the water supply is back, but there's nothing in the cupboard. And according to the Department of Census and Statistics, the national poverty level starts at 16,000 or below 16,619 rupees per person per month. It is impossible. So that's where it has affected the community. So this is what is affecting the community right now.
This is Senathirajah talking especially about the most vulnerable children in Sri Lanka. Malnutrition, school, health. Can you share some insight with us on exactly what this translates to in a day-to-day setting?
Now, if you go to an average school in the plantation community or in the rural areas, and if you look into their lunchbox, many of them just bring rice. And I saw in one instance rice with just 2 green chilies, raw green chilies, or sometimes a little bit of gravy or just one vegetable. And this is affecting children. In fact, a lot of children don't go to school because they have no food to take with them. So this is a crisis that we need to overcome if we want this nation to rise up from the dark days of 2022. So this is a huge challenge. That is on the one hand. This is generally in the plantation sector and in the rural areas. So as a result, we have problems at both ends of the spectrum, either undernourishing or overnourishing. And also stunting, wasting, these things are increasing in our rural communities.
Sri Lanka's economy is doing well, but 1/3 of our population is under the poverty line. We spoke about all of this and more with Dhanan Senathirajah. Stay tuned.
When you have an ambition, trust your instincts. Move forward. This is your moment to shape your future, to be independent, to strengthen yourself. Your time is now. Accelerate your progress. Empowering your progress for a fulfilled life. Union Assurance.
For 30 years, LMD has been the voice of business in Sri Lanka, capturing the pulse of the nation's corporate landscape through its iconic covers. Each cover tells a story, from the first edition in 1994 to the present day, narrating key moments, leaders and trends that have shaped Sri Lanka's business ecosystem. Over the years, LMD covers have featured thought leaders, business pioneers and game-changing innovations, reflecting the evolution of industries and the economy. As we celebrate 30 years, these covers represent more than just publications. They are a testament to LMD's legacy of excellence in business journalism and its unwavering commitment to being Sri Lanka's leading voice of business. LMD, Sri Lanka's voice of business, a legacy of 30 years.
Hello and welcome to LMDtv. The topic of conversation today is poverty alleviation, and I'm here with the National Director of World Vision Lanka, Dhanan Senathirajah. Welcome to our show.
Thank you.
Starting off, we're hearing from the World Bank that, of course, Sri Lanka's economy is rising, developing, and things are getting better, but that 1/3 of our population is still under the poverty line or at the risk of falling back into poverty. I'd like to start off with asking you to give us an assessment of the situation.
Post-war after 2010, we did bring down our poverty levels from 14.5% to 4.5%. Then came a series of unfortunate incidents, East Sunday attacks, COVID pandemic, as well as the economic crisis that increased our poverty levels to over 33%. I believe now it's at about 24 to 25%. Sri Lanka today is like a household that has just gone through a storm. The roof has been repaired, the lights are there, electricity is back, the water supply is back, but there's nothing in the cupboard. So it has affected, the crisis has really affected a large number of people, especially obviously the people at the lower levels in society. And according to the Department of Census and Statistics, the national poverty level starts at 16,000 or below 16,619 rupees per person per month. What can you do with 16,619 per month? It is impossible. So that's where it has affected the community. And as you said, 1/3 of the population is still deeply in poverty as a result of these three crisis situations, and they have not really come out of it. So how this affects the community is that children are undernourished, and the problem is that parents have to choose between buying medicine or giving food to their children, buying books or school books or giving them food. In fact, a lot of children have stopped going to school because they have no food to take with them, or for that matter, they have no money for books or even for bus fare to go to school. So in this sense, it has affected many families. And this has long-term implications where the basis of education itself is crashing down, and poor nourishment also means long-term illnesses when they become adults. So this is what is affecting the community right now.
This is Senathirajah talking especially about the most vulnerable children in Sri Lanka. Malnutrition, school, health. Can you share some insights with us on exactly what this translates to in a day-to-day setting?
Sure. As part of my job, I do travel around Sri Lanka visiting project areas, and I've seen malnutrition increasing in the last couple of years. Now, if you go to an average school in the plantation community or in the rural areas, and if you look into their lunch box, many of them just bring rice. And I saw in one instance rice with just two green chilies, raw green chilies, or sometimes a little bit of gravy or just one vegetable. And that's how people are studying and eating nowadays. And this is affecting children. In fact, a lot of children don't go to school because they have no food to take with them. So this is a crisis that we need to overcome if we want this nation to rise up from the dark days of 2022. And one of the ways in which we can handle this is to have a proper midday meal for the school children. And some of the children don't even go to school anymore because they have no nutrition at home. I have seen children coming to school and fainting during school hours, which never even happened during the war years because they haven't had dinner and they haven't had breakfast. And now they are in school without anything in their stomach or with an empty stomach. So this is a huge challenge. That is on the one hand. This is generally in the plantation sector and in the rural areas. And we have the opposite problem in the urban areas where there is obesity. And that's also not because they're eating nourishing food, but primarily fast food and other things that are carbs, basically predominantly made up of carbs. And sometimes parents, I see them even in Colombo, stopping at all these cafes and snack bars and buying fried items and all those items which have very little nutritional value. So as a result, we have problems at both ends of the spectrum, either undernourishing or overnourishing. And also stunting, wasting, these things are increasing in our rural communities.
And have you seen health implications, in the rural communities when it comes to children, especially regarding illnesses and all?
Yes. So lack of nourishment also means that their immune systems are weak. So especially in times of heavy rains, you have dengue fever and all of that, and their bodies can't hold up. And in addition to that, they will have long-term implications later on in terms of diabetes and heart disease, and all of that is primarily at that stage because they haven't got enough nutrition. And also we must remember that nutrition for a child starts not only when the child is in school, when the child is conceived itself. So we need to have proper nutritional facilities for pregnant mothers, for lactating mothers, nursing mothers, and that also adds to the strengthening of the child's immune system, his nutritional values and all of that.
It's time to take a very short break, but we still be back to talk more about our talk.
Display your brand message on digital screens at prime locations. The largest digital advertising network in Sri Lanka. Emerging Media.
Welcome back to the show. We're in conversation with the National Director of World Vision Lanka, Dhanan Senathirajah. Mr. Senathirajah, I don't even know where you can start solving the problem. But if I ask you, what are the most urgent needs that you see that have to be addressed in the next few months or coming year?
The most urgent human need in our country today is basically food. And we have a country that has been blessed by God in many ways. Anything that you plant will grow. We have so much of space out there, but still in terms of food production, we seem to be importing, and that's affecting our foreign currency position as well. So I think the basic need is primarily, or the basic solution is primarily to increase our food production. And this can be done in so many ways. One of the things, I'm a firm believer in the economies of scale. Most of our farms are small, paddy fields are small, vegetable gardens are small, and this way we will never have economies of scale. We cannot automate, and our population is just 22 million, and which is not too big for an island of this size. So what we need to do is to encourage corporates to go into farming. There are few corporates that are into it, and they have economies of scale, especially if you go to the Dambulla area and places like that. But we need to encourage entrepreneurs and the corporates to go into large-scale farming. And that's one way we can make food affordable. And secondly, every household, every family should be helped with a bit of climate-smart agriculture in their home gardens so that they will have some nutrition all year round. And this is not just limited to vegetables. It can also include livestock like chickens and goats and other animals. And this way they will have access to nutrition. And that's the second aspect of it. Thirdly, we need to align the government policies with the private sector, and there must be some encouragement given to the private sector to be involved in food production. And that's going to be a major factor in solving this problem. I believe that this problem can be solved within a couple of years if all the players come together. It's not just the government. Government can only lay down policies, but it's up to the nation, the entrepreneurs, the private sector, and the individuals to take this up as a challenge. And another problem that we see is that there's a lot of wastage of food from its primary state. Now, I'm told that 45% of the food that comes to the Dambulla market or the economic zone is wasted. And in Colombo alone, amongst more privileged society, large amounts of food is thrown. And with that, we can feed the most vulnerable. So these are some of the challenges. We need to take our food production and food wastage very seriously. And that's the way to solve this problem.
Do you think it's more of an awareness kind of endeavor that we have to take? Or?
I think that's the first step. Awareness needs to be created, firstly amongst the more vulnerable communities, that they can look after their own needs.
Yeah.
Because we live in a country, we don't have a desert in this country or wilderness. Anything that we plant will grow. So it also takes us to other challenges, like we need to renovate most of our tanks, which were built by our kings many centuries ago. And also water preservation systems, then rainwater collection systems, and these things will help especially during the dry season. And also they need to be taught on basic knowledge on agriculture, which the government entities and the private sector together can carry out. Another problem in relation to this food production and this whole poverty issue is addiction. And we have seen this in almost all the communities, in particular addiction to alcohol. Now hard drugs are coming in, and we need to have greater enforcement there. And also awareness building among parents. You need to have programs where the parents have to be taught that this is going to affect their children and their children's children in the generations to come. So in addition to that, we also have to train the community, especially the most vulnerable and the farming community, about financial management, because they are going into borrowing from the informal sector, where the interest rates are very high and the enforcement is basically coercion, physical sometimes, and that puts them into greater stress. So financial management, savings clubs where they are taught to save as much as possible, to keep something for a rainy day, to save for the sake of the children's education. So these are the programs that we need to bring in order to make a change. But as you said, mindset change is the first thing. And I think over a period of time, we have realized that just importing will not help. We started importing because it's much easier than going through the whole food production process. So I think we need to change that mindset. In a sense, every crisis situation also gives us opportunities. And this is the time to really look at proper food production in our country.
Senathirajah, you was talking about individual and the private sector as well as the government sector. It has to be like a tripartite kind of stance here. When we talk of partnerships and collaborations, can you just let us know what is the situation looking like when it comes to partnerships, and how far ahead or how far behind are we?
If you look at the whole basis of humanity, it's all about partnerships. Whether it's a family unit or organizations or nations, we need to come together in order to make an impact. On our own, a single organization or an individual can only bring only so much of impact. So that is essential. So this is where every person, every private sector organization, entrepreneurs, then the government, the local government, in addition to that, the development sector players must come together. So that also requires a proper policy framework, and also ensuring that the impediments that are there to achieving these goals are removed. I think that's the responsibility of the government, because it's a government that has the authority and the power to remove these impediments. And once that is done, I am a firm believer that good habits are equally difficult to give up as bad habits. And once we change the mindset and bring these habits in, and where organizations can partner together. Now, I've seen success stories where private sector organizations have worked hand in hand with development sector organizations. And many of the organizations that I know in the development sector work together with the local government. And these are real success stories. Let me give you the example of a leading INGO and an entrepreneur in the north who's into climate smart agriculture, organic agriculture. They've got together and they're making a real impact, where the profits that come go back into the community, and in particular women headed households are supported, and the entire community that lives around the farming area are benefiting from that. And another thing that they have done in that instance is to remove the middleman. Therefore, the farmers are getting a good income, and the price at which the product goes into the market is also at a lower price. So that has been a challenge. I think in South Asia, the middleman coming in has been a challenge. A fruit that perhaps costs you 35 rupees to produce is sold in a supermarket at 600, 700 rupees. So these where partnerships come in, and together we can make a big impact.
And talking about that impact, how can we, what are your suggestions, if I ask like that, to make sure that the impact is sustainable? Because sometimes we see that there are very good initiatives, but it's more of a charity mindset or an ad hoc kind of mindset. How can we bring sustainability?
There are two aspects to it. The first one is that you have heard of that phrase, if a man is hungry, don't give him a fish, teach him to fish. And that's very important. So today's solution should not become problems for tomorrow. And one of the things I saw, that especially at the end of the war, a lot of well-meaning organizations, both here and from overseas, created that mindset where you can depend on somebody else for your help. So we haven't really raised people up and put them on their own feet. So it's important to have sustainable programs. And for that, firstly, I believe knowledge is important, attitudinal change is important. And that's where things like financial literacy is very important, so that they know how to manage their funds, so that they do not get into debt. Then in terms of agricultural practices, a lot of knowledge has to be imparted. And also management of the soil, irrigation, and all of that needs to be looked at. So a sustainable program will have a long-term view, and it will also build capacity in the community. And that's how it's going to work. See, any organization or say development sector organization can be in a particular place only for a very short time. You can't be there forever. So within that time, we need to build up not only the infrastructure, knowledge, but build capacity so that the community can take over and run it on their own. Sri Lankans are very intelligent people. I mean, if you look at Sri Lankans who have gone abroad, they're doing so well. So we need to create that culture and that mindset here so that we'll work hard and ensure that this nation actually becomes very productive in terms of solving our issues.
We'll be talking with the National Director of World Vision Lanka, Dhanan Senathirajah. Thank you very much. It was such an insightful conversation.
Thank you so much, sir.
And thank you to all our viewers for joining us. Until next time, take care.
Don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel and follow us on Facebook, LinkedIn, Instagram and X. Thank you for watching and stay safe.